It sounds so radical, like abolish the Senate, abolish the Supreme Court. Like, those are the things that need to happen. Those are the things that need to happen.
Here it is,
I grew
man.
up in a progressive paradise. So where was this paradise? No, it wasn't Norway, Sweden, or Finland. It was the Soviet Union. Everything I just described was true. And yet life in the USSR, the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, was a living hell. Yes, income inequality barely existed, but that was because everyone was equally poor. Appliances, consumer products, and fresh food were scarce. If you wanted a car, good luck. You'd be on a waiting list for 10 years. Yes, women were emancipated, but they spent most of their time waiting in line for hours for food to feed their children. Disposable diapers were unheard of, as were vacuum cleaners. A dishwasher? Are you kidding? Healthcare was free, in theory, but you could only get decent and timely treatment if you had influence, connections, and cash to pay the bribes. Everyone was educated, but there were strings attached. If you went to college, the government decided what your career would be and where you'd live. Racial and ethnic strife was limited, yes, but only because the government ruled by fear and terror, imprisoning millions of people, so-called enemies of the state, in a vast network of concentration camps known as gulags. These enemies included my great-grandparents, who met in one of these gulags. Every morning, guards would randomly select 3 prisoners and throw them into the icy waters of a nearby lake to drown in front of the whole camp. New York Times reporter Walter Duranty, a Stalin apologist, once wrote, "You can't make an omelette without breaking eggs." But in the Soviet Union, there were no omelettes. Only broken lives, broken dreams, broken bodies.
Socialism. Democratic Socialists of America leaders say they will require candidates who they endorse to support abolishing the presidency, Senate, and the Supreme Court. These are the things that need to happen.
Need to happen for what to happen?
Oh boy, do we even really want to listen to this?
Yes.
This is actually something that we committed to at convention, having our endorsed candidates supporting the program. It's a requirement now. And so that'll be incorporated into our endorsement process.
It sounds so radical, like abolish the Senate, abolish the Supreme Court, like et cetera, but it's not. Like, those are the things that need to happen.
So whenever people are like, oh my God, they want to get rid of the president, I was like, well, I don't know what we would call it in the future. We could call it the head honcho of
sure enough.
Whatever, you know.
Democracy for all. Whoa.
Democracy for all, but they're all women. One's in a burqa, one's old. And then there's 2 people in one of those, which I think is illegal to have a second person in there with you.
I'm pretty sure this part doesn't happen in the countries that require women to wear a burqa.
Well,
okay.
that's why they come
Just
here.
pretend.
You know? Okay.
That's okay.
Well, I don't know what we would call it in the future. We could call it the head honcho of whatever, you know. Like,
so eloquent.
Okay, head honcho
hold
is
on.
misogynistic,
Are
lady.
we just LARPing? Are we just LARPing now? Like, seriously? Is this
supporting the program? It's
abolish the Senate, abolish the Supreme Court.
Listen to them. Listen to them.
Like,
they're pretending.
et cetera,
They're
but
playing.
it's really, it's not.
Okay.
Like, those are the things that need to happen.
This is a great, complicated virtue signal. I get it. You want to appear that you're on the right side of history and all of that. Socialism sounds good. And it is good to care for society and to be a good human being, of course, to want our fellow man to be able to have upward mobility, but socialism is not the way. It's just a really nice sounding word that feigns benevolence, but it's covering something quite sinister. This system is designed to destroy systems of self-governance from the inside out. Weaponized cultural Marxism is doing it right now quite effectively in our country. And we got these people in the DSA literally talking about how they want to get rid of the presidency, the Supreme Court, the Congress. Y'all are nuts.
So whenever people are like, oh my God, they want to get rid of the president, I was like, well, I don't know what we would call it in the future.
We'll just call it the head honcho of whatever.
So real quick, I don't know what we'll call it. So you're trying to make changes before you even have a plan of doing things too. That's the thing. I wish I could say these people that are doing this are like, you know, the head honchos, to use her lady, of like the socialist movement, but they're not. They're useful idiots or useful tools. I'm not being mean. That is the term.
I respect the compassion, but we really need more wisdom in this world, because we can have high intellects and we can have big hearts, but if we don't know how to wield that intellect and wield that empathy, it can be quite suicidal. That's what you see happening when systems like socialism become adopted. All they ever do is bring everybody down to very, very, very poor, with a super powerful, super ultra wealthy centralized system that controls everything, like the CCP in China. And it's brutal. The only way these systems work is relying on mass slavery and forced labor and incredibly low wages.
Yeah.
What we have here in the U.S. is wholly different, and it was an experiment that inspired hundreds of other nations around the world.
But Chris, you used the term wisdom. We need wisdom. Wisdom is the patriarchy.
Oh, that's right. You're right.
Wise old men, wise guys.
That's right. You know, and being on time is whiteness.
That was the Smithsonian that put that out. Don't argue with us.
Of course, that was critical race theory pushing its way into different institutions.
I like the term now that the overall term that we have for it now is gay race communism. It used to be gay, lesbian, bisexual, but now it's like 2SL, LGBTQIA plus P, everything else. So gay, you know, the not centered, and then race, because everything's about race, right? You got to put on the race tinted glasses to understand this stuff. And then communism, which is what they're going for. And actually, so I'm going to pull this up real quick because it's perfect. Economic democracy. Economic democracy is socialism or communism.
There it is.
As in everybody gets to make the decisions.
Yeah.
The thing is, people can't do that. So you'd have to have a council or a Soviet to make these decisions.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, you always have a central authoritative body, a super powerful central government, and then everyone else is very, 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 very poor. And I mean, it got to the point in Ukraine, was it, at one point during the starvation, during the famines, that they were putting posters on the sides of buildings that were telling people not to eat your children?
That would be the Ukrainian genocide. What do they call that? The Holodomor?
Horrifying. So here it is. Economic democracy to them means establish public ownership of the largest corporations and essential industries to ensure democratic control and accountability to the people, enact aggressive wealth taxes on the richest individuals.
And look at that. They have like...
It doesn't work. We already have the most progressive tax on the planet in this country. Let's break this down a little bit further, though, and let's understand how this happens. From George Orwell.
In 1984, George Orwell wrote, "It was always the women, and above all, the young ones, who were the most bigoted adherents of the party, the swallowers of slogans, the amateur spies, and nosers out of unorthodoxy."
He wasn't being misogynistic, he was making a psychological observation. In his view, women, particularly in their role as
weaponizing women's compassion.
caregivers and moral enforcers, tend to prioritize safety and compassion over risk and freedom. And that instinct, while natural, is easily weaponized by totalitarian systems. When conformity is marketed as compassion and control is rebranded as care, the state taps into the feminine psyche to enforce ideological obedience. Now consider this. Men will do almost anything to attract a mate. So when the state captures women through propaganda, redefining tyranny as empathy and compliance as virtue, men follow, especially those who can't compete in the traditional dating market. They feminize themselves and trade strength for submission. This is what evolutionary biologists call the sneaky strategy, low-status males mimicking feminine traits or moral positions in hopes of reproductive access. And while all of this unfolds, families disintegrate. Single motherhood, a top predictor of poverty and social dysfunction, becomes the norm. Children from single-parent homes are far less likely to climb the economic ladder, and who steps in as provider and protector?
Don't worry, we got
Not the
welfare
father,
for
the
you.
state.
That's right.
But here's the kicker.
Your father,
the
the
state is
state.
funded disproportionately by men, so rather than supporting the women in single-parent homes are far less likely to climb the economic ladder, and who steps in as provider and protector? Not the father, the state. But here's the kicker. The state is funded disproportionately by men, so rather than supporting the women they married and raised children with directly, men subsidize the state, which in turn provides for women through social programs. Why? Because women have been propagandized to see every relationship as a power dynamic, except one with the state, which is ironically the centralization of raw power. They've been told that to rely on a man is weakness, but to rely on a bureaucracy is empowerment. This is not progress. This is dependency with a new face. And both men and women are suffering. The childless, middle-aged woman and the incel are two sides of the same broken culture. A woman without her own child often directs her maternal instinct towards abstract causes, infantilizing minorities under the guise of social justice. What we are witnessing from psychologically unwell men and women is Nietzsche's concept of resentiment, envy dressed up as morality. The strong became evil, the weak became good, strength became tyranny. We now live in a pathologically soft society that sides even with those who harm it, where punishing crime feels unfair and victimhood is the highest virtue. Nietzsche called them the tarantulas, those who preach justice but act from bitterness. They don't want to uplift the weak, they want to drag down the strong. Orwell saw them too. Quote, "Most middle-aged socialists, while theoretically pining for a classless society, cling like glue to their miserable fragments of social prestige."
Wow!
I want to get to the part where he said the most bigoted, Orwell. The definition of bigotry isn't like, oh, he's a bigot, he's a racist, he's whatever. No, the bigot refuses to change their mind about something when given actual facts about it.
It's like they want to stay hateful.
So we apply that to like the old white racist. You know, it's like we grew up not liking black people, and you know, sure enough, I don't want my daughter dating a black person. I don't care what you tell me, even though like I think Leroy over there is a real fine guy, but still he ain't dating my daughter. That's a bigot.
That's a bigot.
And a
That's
racist.
a bigot. Yeah.
And you know, sorry women, not necessarily picking on you, but kind of picking on you. socialism is a feminization protocol that is thrust upon societies and ends up destroying them. And by feminization, I mean concerned with the group and keeping the group together and keeping the group uniform and moving everything along, which is really important. Like, you know, that's why women make really good caregivers for children and stuff, because you got, you know, keep those little rascals all together and everything. But when you start trying to apply that on a governmental and economic scale, it becomes too overburdensome, and then you become the devouring mother archetype, right?
Yeah.
So what ends up happening is, in order to get socialism through, which there are people who make a lot of money out of it that don't care about, you know, feminization or masculinization, in order to get that through, they target women. They target that natural instinct to bring the community together, keep community cohesion, and they hijack it.
Yes, they do.
Sorry, ladies, but, you know, you want to talk about the patriarchy and all that stuff. Well, the matriarchy ain't doing so hot. And it's new, and it's already messing up. This patriarchy, however you want to call it, has lasted for thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years. And it's not just this top-down, do whatever man says. It's like we go out and die for things. We guard the periphery so then the home can be safe, right? Our homeland. Who's left behind at home but the women to take care of the children while we go defend our homeland on the periphery.
And it's like, after the eons of doing this, we've identified the toxic aspects of excess masculinity.
But we haven't toxic masculinity.
We forgot that there is a toxic aspects to femininity as well.
Yeah, there's the curse of Eve that is mentioned, and that's the curse for controlling things.
Yes.
That's like, if you ever hear,
there's a lot of great Disney villains that describe this in the, of course, in mythology as well.
But the next part that I want to bring up just real quick is the state as the father. Men are indirectly paying for the kids, but they don't have to get that relationship with the kids and their partner directly. So the state has actually, through welfare systems, created a wedge between the family unit and split men and women apart. Because men and women by themselves suck. Men and women together are unstoppable. And that becomes a family, one unit that is neither male nor female, but beyond male and female, because it's both and.
That's the real transhuman.
You know? And really, like, forget what politician, it might have been Trump messed up. It's like, oh yeah, this socialism thing's been around for thousands of years, and they kind of try to troll about it and be like, oh, he's stupid, you don't know. No, this whole idea of being resentful of other people's stuff, and wanting more.
The ones that work harder, the ones that are stronger or smarter or more creative.
That's as old as Cain and Abel.
The ones that do the most work.
That's as old as Cain and Abel, which are the first two sons of Adam and Eve who had this curse, right?
When you think about our past history here in America, just go back to the 80s or 90s, and we were very proud, even though we knew we weren't perfect and we had flaws. We were proud of our ingenuity and our freedom to create. And we actually prized that, and we held it as something sacred and very important.
And it's righteously proud too. It's not just like the sin of pride, but actually there's a reason to be proud of this. Because if you hold
the proof
on
of the pudding of it, we've seen how it enriched our culture and inspired the rest of the world. And jazz, soul, rock and roll, and so much other great things that came out of this melting pot culture.
Modern art that came out of America, even though the CIA funded it.
Rap used to dominate the charts, but ever since the funding from USAID and most certainly CIA got cut off, now we're seeing Ella Langley.
Oh boy.
Right now, she's huge.
My comment with the CIA thing was actually our modern artists, you know, like Jackson Pollock. Pollock's the splatter guy. Yeah, all that was funded by the CIA to like show the Soviets that at least our commies are better than your commies. Because at the time too, you know, Soviet art was very like ultra realism to the point where it looked cartoonistic, like at least in my opinion. But you know, like strong men and strong women tending the fields with some like happy children running around and all that stuff, instead of being like weak, frail people that have to be told not to eat their fucking children. So
there was that. And so what kind of stuff does this mind state inspire?
Oh yeah, murdering your children.
Murdering your children.
Okay,
Brett
here we
Weinstein posted this. Governor Healy is signing a bill allowing destruction of a viable baby to save a mother's life. An inherently horrifying scenario.
All
no
right,
men in the room.
When he says destruction of a viable baby, some people are going to be like, well, it's an abortion because of the mother's life, right?
But just
what he's saying with destruction of a viable baby means you don't have to kill it.
No. This is the case where you don't have to kill the baby. So no men in the room here. Is this only woman's issue? Why are they gleeful? Modern feminism seems like a religion to Brett, and I agree. It regards abortion as a virtue. This is a win. And so I love this comment from Jordan Hall. It's much worse. The previous language allowed abortion if the physician judged it necessary to preserve the patient's life, necessary to preserve physical or mental health, warranted by a lethal fetal anomaly, or warranted by a grave fetal condition incompatible with sustained life without extraordinary intervention. The new language is an abortion may be performed by a physician based upon the professional judgment of the physician. No reason is necessary other than the professional judgment of a physician. Whoa. That's what they changed.
So you can get one of these woke physicians, that went through the system that, drank the tea or the Kool-Aid, if you will, and just be like, oh, well, like the mother was really at risk. And, like if we had to like induce birth or C-section, cut it out, it could have really like traumatized her, and then she'd have trauma and probably like complex PTSD. So it's best if we just abort it and then grind it up and suck it out, or cut it out or induce birth, but the baby's dead. Like abortions aren't like,
sometimes a beautiful new life inspires the best out of people. They work harder and they make something of themselves because they want to take care of this life, and they, for the first time in their lives, love something more than them.
Oh, as it turns out,
their own self.
Most people who have children become better people. They're outliers, but yeah, and I haven't seen it personally with myself, but with my friends, yeah.
This guy makes a very coherent argument. Sounds like this will create a market for late-term abortion shopping for doctors who will perform these procedures and attest the need to their professional judgment and no mechanism to ask why. Then after the body parts can be sold to private enterprise.
Oh yeah,
and then Jordan Hall points out, why not a subsidized antenatal practice that pays mothers to abort and then harvest the results?
Wow. Dude, people have already been caught selling aborted
fetal tissue.
Yeah. And Canada has a vibrant market of organ harvesting because they're like, hey, you broke your ankle and the government can't, afford to pay for your splint and your crutches. Have you ever thought of MAID? You ever thought of just dying? And MAID is medical assist dying. It's terrible. And then they harvest your organs. And they're doing that in Canada, and they're taking...
It's like we are in the dystopian future scenario now, guys. We are in it.
Soylent Green
no longer on the horizon. We are in it.
Soylent Green is people, folks.
God.
Yeah.
God.
Hey, for you youngins, go watch the movie. I'm not going to spoil it for you.
Yeah. But
look at that face.
That's a 34-week-old fetus is what people would call it, which is just a word for baby.
Offspring.
That's what 34-week human offspring looks like.
Well, that's
outside the womb.
That's a damn cute.
That looks like a human being.
That's a damn cute clump of cells.
I care about it.
And look, it can open its eyes and look you in the face. Look at the baby.
The only difference is the child's location.
Yeah,
but it's not a human, right? That's not a human. Oh no, it is a human because it's outside of the womb.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
No. If it's inside, it's a parasite.
No, it's definitely a human being, but they like to call it a parasite. I love that. Yeah. That one's disgusting.
It has a parasitical relationship. Don't get me wrong.
It can't live on its own. Yeah, but it's still its own DNA, and so a 2-year-old can't live on its own either. What are we talking about?
Yeah. Well, and neither can old people either. So should we start throwing them in the grinder too?
This is what the tyranny of the dark side of femininity can bring out. We need to encourage natural femininity back to the fore, like loving, beautiful, compassionate women that also practice wisdom.
Resist socialism. Become strong women.
Resist socialism, fam.
Hey, y'all ladies that are old school feminists, resist the socialism and the communism that tells you it's a good thing to kill your children.
Yep.
And then you will be good, strong woman resisting socialism.
I love it. So now, check this out, guys. The 5 stages of leftist radicalism. This is broken down very well.
Radicalization.
Much thank you to Liam Out Loud.
I'll give you the last 5 steps that we have definitively gone through in this political radicalization of the left, and also this slide into totalitarianism. From 2010 to 2015, that's when we started hearing universities talk about weird, crazy things, right? And starting to label speech as harm and giving people safe spaces. And we were like, what's going on these university campuses? This is kind of weird. Well, the first thing that they were doing was reframing disagreement to their ideas as harm. That brings speech into the realm of violence, and that then means that violence is speech. So to them, these kind of assassinations are them communicating. This is communication to them. And so this is where they said, okay, well, this now gives us the right to ruin your reputation, to take away your social status if you disagree with us. That was their first step into dehumanizing their opposition. Was, okay, no more social status for you. That's when cancel culture kicked off in 2016. We went through a wave where they just said, what can we ruin people's lives for? That was another step. Then in 2021 and 2023, when this wasn't working, when they were still going, why are people still disagreeing with us? Why are all these right-wing reactionaries. Well, how do we need to deal with them? That's when censorship came in. They just said, fine, you can't talk anymore. It's not that you can talk and then I'm going to say something bad about you. It's I'm just going to silence, please. And then when that didn't work from 2021 to 2023, and they go, but people are still disagreeing with us. Actually, they're right. They won the COVID narrative. Well, then it became structural. That's when you saw them starting to go after licenses with Jordan Peterson. That's when they started going, oh, you want to disagree with us on online social media? We're going to lock you up in jail. And now
there's policy and policy both against the individual and the tech company.
And now their psyche is going, okay, actually, we can just completely ostracize you from society. And this is important to note about human psychology. Is they might not even be able to articulate this, but the human mind views exile as the same as death. Because for up until 200 years ago, if you were exiled from your
out of the tribe, you were dead within a week. That's what it was. It was a death sentence.
And so that was their first step into, oh, if we accept exile, their mind was also accepting like death, but I want it out of my view. Like you should go to jail or just you're not allowed.
Not having a stomach to deal with it, but we know the outcome.
That was their step. Now this is we just crossed another threshold here within this leftist psyche of what they will actually enjoy and not just try to reframe is that now it's assassination is they go we can kill you.
Yeah, they have dehumanized to the point that they can excuse the murder of people with whom they disagree because those ideas are so dangerous to put out there, like Charlie Kirk.
Yep. And we see you, Charlie. We haven't forgotten.
See you, brother. One last video, guys, just to point out what socialism brings. Yeah,
I grew up in a progressive paradise. The gap between the haves and the have-nots was practically non-existent. The literacy rate was almost 100%. Healthcare was universal and free. No one fought over race, religion, or class. Maternity leave was generous. Childcare was free. There were no limits on abortion. So where was this paradise? No, it wasn't Norway, Sweden, or Finland. It was the Soviet Union. Everything I just described was true, and yet life in the USSR, the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, was a living hell. Yes, income inequality barely existed, but that was because everyone was equally poor. Appliances, consumer products, and fresh food were scarce. If you wanted a car, good luck. You'd be on a waiting list for 10 years. Yes, women were emancipated, but they spent most of their time waiting in line for hours for food to feed their children. Disposable diapers were unheard of, as were vacuum cleaners. A dishwasher? Are you kidding? Healthcare was free, in theory, but you could only get decent and timely treatment if you had influence, connections, and cash to pay the bribes. Everyone was educated, but there were strings attached. If you went to college, the government decided what your career would be and where you'd live. Racial and ethnic strife was limited, yes, but only because the government ruled by fear and terror, imprisoning millions of people, so-called enemies of the state, in a vast network of concentration camps known as gulags. These enemies included my great-grandparents, who met in one of these gulags. Every morning, guards would randomly select 3 prisoners and throw them into the icy waters of a nearby lake to drown in front of the whole camp. New York Times reporter Walter Duranty, a Stalin apologist, once wrote, "You can't make an omelette without breaking eggs." But in the Soviet Union, there were no omelettes, only broken lives, broken dreams, broken bodies. It may be hard to believe this now, but for most of its existence, the Soviet Union was the envy of many progressives, academics, and celebrities. America should be more like communist Russia, they said. More equal, more equitable, more emancipated. This view was born of sheer ignorance. The USSR had no virtues worth emulating. When gullible Westerners visited, they saw what their regime wanted them to see. Literally, movie sets of a worker's paradise. There was even a phrase for it, a Potemkin village. And there was also a phrase for the Westerners who were fooled by this facade. Useful idiots. Of course, no one in the Soviet Union was fooled. They weren't living the dream, they were living the nightmare. Having been raised in that worker's paradise, I am sensitive to any promises of utopia. When I hear progressives talking about eradicating inequality, smashing the patriarchy, and righting the wrongs of settler colonialism, all echoes from the Soviet era, my blood runs cold. These promises might sound idealistic, but they're anything but. It seems to be a sad fact of human nature that people who don't realize how good they have it are vulnerable to demagogues who promise to tear it all down and build a better tomorrow. That's exactly what Lenin promised, before imposing tyranny, poverty, and terror. Exactly what Mao promised, before imposing tyranny, poverty, and terror. Exactly what Castro promised, before imposing tyranny, poverty, and terror. Think it can't happen in the UK or the US? Well, maybe not. Maybe our institutions are so strong they can fight off any attempts to undermine them. I certainly hope so. Then again, do you think the Russians knew where the Bolsheviks were leading them? Do you think the Cambodians knew where Pol Pot was leading them? Venezuelans, where Hugo Chavez was leading them? I'll tell you where, to that better tomorrow. And just in case you think those Russians, Cambodians, and Venezuelans were just naive, the New York Times thought the same thing in each case, that they were headed to a better tomorrow. Yes, in a perfect world, everything would be free and everyone would follow their bliss while riding unicorns to the end of the rainbow. But we do not live in a perfect world, and we never will. Every sensible person knows that. There's only this world with all its pain, injustice, and disappointment. We must deal with reality as we find it, not as we wish it to be. The irony is that the world we fashioned in the West is close to near perfect when compared to the better tomorrow progressives keep promising us. That's a lesson I've learned from experience. It's a lesson learned by everyone who's lived in one of these paradises. And now, hopefully, you've learned it from me.
Hopefully, you guys will actually listen to people that grew up in socialist countries and have come over here and appreciate and argue for the sanctity and the longevity of the West.
And not to continue to dog on the ladies, but the Russian Revolution, they got the young people and the women on board. The Iranian Revolution that led to like terribleness, they got the ladies on board. Mao's China, they got the ladies on board. Actually, they dressed everybody gender neutral. Everybody wore the same gray jumpsuit with the stupid little hat. And it was fine because it was just neutral, it was egalitarian.
Yep.
And all these come from a place of care, or at least, you know, it's like, don't you care about your
destroy societies? They destroy and torture peoples. Go and read The Death of Ivan Ilyich by Leo Tolstoy.
Even worse,
or The Gulag Archipelago by Solzhenitsyn.
Even worse than destroying like people directly is they turn people into brutes that will turn in their neighbor and ostracize and tattle on them. It was said that, you know, in the USSR, in some places, the only way to make money was to turn in people. So that's what they were doing to each other, you know? It brutalizes the people. And
the children and the women are the scariest in these kinds of societies.
Sure.
It's so sad. It happens in North Korea, too.
If you read 1984, who were the lead informants? It was the children. You have children in every family, and the children would be the ones to, you know, sneak and tell on you, and were the most adherent as well.
And they did the same thing in China.
So it's like
they turned the youth against the elderly.
Oh yeah, sure.
It's so sad because they'll just indoctrinate the youth into this idea, and the youth, you know, with their good hearts, will fall for it because they have not been educated with alternatives to understand a well-rounded perspective on the whole picture. And you know, when you only get part of a story, you can do some crazy shit, fam.
And that comes into the point of the most comfortable people don't realize how well they have it, so they'll follow for the demagogues that will say, I'm going to tear everything down and build a new future, like a new beautiful future. Well, kids don't realize that the world isn't fair and like the world is harsh. So they're like, okay, I'm going to believe that. And then, well, traditionally speaking, you have the women. It's like, well, they're protected from the sarin gas and the grenades and the machine gun fire and all that stuff for most of human history. So the better the life gets for them, they're going to be like, well, it could still be better though. And, you know, the mother wants the best for her children. So the feedback cycle with that is like, well, if I can get better, I'm going to push to get better. Even if I have it good, I need to push to get better so I can get my progeny up and out. And the kid just is like, I want candy. You know what I mean? Like, you know, so like, women, I feel for you, but like, I got to call it out. Like this feminist thing was a trap for all of y'all. And
this third wave feminism is completely co-opted.
And tearing down men didn't help for anything except to make y'all fucking disappointed.
We're all down for egalitarianism and finding the best ways that we work together.
Oh, sure.
But this stuff of putting down men and thinking that we're like the worst half of the species, no, actually we fit together like beautiful puzzle pieces. And let's get back to that.
We're not complete without each other.
We are not complete without each other. We really are not.
But the socialists, the communists will have you believe that you can only be complete without the other. But you still need the state, though.
That's right. They want to destroy the family union. They also want to destroy the ability of nations to be self-determining and self-governed. And we do not want what these people are trying to bring.
You got to abolish the president and the Senate and the Congress.
The Supreme Court. All these checks and balances we have in place against the greed of man. Now all of a sudden you're just going to let that power run rampant. You think it's all about power politics. Wait till you create it and make it about power politics and see what happens. All we have to do is recognize the number of people that died under socialism in the 20th century was even greater than those that died from Germany's Third Reich. And this thing has never worked in multiple countries, way more. We should be able to see the hammer and sickle as much as a detestable symbol immediately as we see the swastika. It should just be automatic recognition that that is an incredibly dangerous ideology. It covers itself in this benevolent term, socialism. It sounds so good, but what it actually does is the exact opposite of what you would want from that term. So, we got to pay better attention. We got to figure these things out. We got to be that change we wish to see. We got to change this world from the inside out. It's the name of the game. That's what we do here. It's Meaning Making 101, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure to like and subscribe. Share with everybody you know. I've been Chris.
I've been DJ.
And we will see you on the flip side. Peace.